The prairie wind sliced bitterly across exposed skin as the sun descended toward the western skyline, bathing the heavens in brilliant shades of amber and scarlet. Fine clouds of dust swirled upward from the parched ground, settling upon the faces of two small children who stood shivering on a vast expanse, their garments ragged, their eyes burdened with terror, and their fragile hearts racing in a world that had shown them nothing but cruelty. The boy, senior by merely a handful of years, compressed his lips into a tight line as he gazed down at the worn leather boots of the men standing before him. He sensed the gravity of every instant that had led them to this moment. Then, gathering every ounce of bravery he possessed, he uttered words that no child should ever be forced to say. "Spare my sister." His voice fractured, yet his gaze remained unwavering. "Take me in her place." The hush that descended was so profound it felt as though the very earth itself was holding its breath. The rancher, weathered by countless years of grit and tempests, stood motionless in his tracks, for such words from a child had caught him completely off guard. Yet in that singular instant, something within his spirit began to transform, something dormant for many years. An anguish, a memory, and a pull that would alter everything. If you have faith in compassion, in fresh beginnings, in the strength of sacrificial love, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who could use hope today, and subscribe to Untold Story for additional tales that remind us of the goodness that still exists in our world. Your support helps preserve these stories. The children's odyssey had commenced long before this desperate appeal. Their names were Samuel and Anna. Samuel was 9, his countenance already bearing burdens of duty far too great for his small frame, while Anna, merely 6, held fast to a worn doll whose fabric had started to fray, as though reflecting their own unraveling lives. They had endured more loss than most grown people could withstand. Their father, formerly a ranch worker, had perished in a terrible mishap while taming a wild stallion. Their mother, ravaged by sickness, had died during the bitter winter months, abandoning the two children to face a merciless world alone. From that time forward, they had drifted from location to location, searching for morsels of sustenance, concealing themselves from dangerous strangers, and hoping each evening that someone, somewhere, might finally perceive them not as inconveniences, but as children deserving of affection. It was during one such day of roaming that they encountered the extensive property of a man known simply as the rancher. He stood tall, with deep furrows etched into his sun-weathered features and a name for being as unforgiving as the steel branding iron he wielded. He had suffered the loss of his own family years prior, and since that time he had erected barriers of solitude around his heart. None dared to oppose him. None dared to seek his compassion. Yet here Samuel and Anna stood, delicate, famished, and dust-covered, their eyes silently begging for clemency. The rancher observed them intently and at length, his heart battling against his reason. He had encountered children previously, had even dismissed them, convinced he possessed nothing more to offer. However, there was something in Samuel's expression, firm, courageous, and brimming with self-sacrifice, that penetrated the steel fortress surrounding his soul. When Samuel murmured his entreaty, volunteering himself to protect his sister, the rancher experienced a shock, as if he were gazing into a reflection of the man he had once been before grief transformed him to stone. Days elapsed, and the rancher did not turn them out. Initially, he provided them with food in silence, observing as Anna gripped her doll tightly while Samuel delayed eating until she had been nourished. He observed Samuel's relentless efforts, assisting with minor tasks despite his frail limbs and exhausted body. He noticed how Anna's giggles, though infrequent, possessed a gentleness that eased even the most difficult days. Gradually, without conscious awareness, the rancher began to experience something he had long abandoned, the awakening of familial bonds. However, the path to acceptance proved challenging. The rancher's workers, tough cowhands who served him faithfully, complained about the children. They murmured that they were vagrants, additional mouths to nourish, complications waiting to emerge. One even declared openly that the rancher should never have welcomed them. Samuel overheard these remarks one evening while hauling water pails, and his heart filled with mortification. He assured Anna as she drifted to sleep that night that should the rancher ever decide to dismiss them, he would not plead, but would do whatever necessary to ensure her safety. That vow pressed upon his young heart like lead. The rancher, however, had been eavesdropping as well. Late that evening, he positioned himself beside the window of the children's modest room and listened to Samuel's quiet words. The impact struck him more forcefully than any tempest. This boy, possessing nothing worldly, demonstrated greater bravery and devotion than many adult men he had encountered. The rancher discovered himself unable to rest, grappling with questions he had long suppressed. Could he dare to unlock his heart once more? Could he cherish these children as his own when the specter of his deceased family continued to torment him? Or would he disappoint them, as he had once failed those he had loved most deeply? The ultimate trial arrived one evening when unfamiliar riders approached the ranch, rough men whose eyes revealed avarice. They had learned of two vagrant children and arrived with malicious purposes, intending to capture them and trade them for forced labor. Samuel, small though he was, advanced before the rancher could respond. He extended his arms protectively before Anna and declared with quivering bravery that if they must take someone, they should choose him. The declaration resonated across the quiet ranch. "Spare my sister. Take me in her place." Anna grasped his arm, weeping, while the rancher remained paralyzed, witnessing this boy wage a struggle no child should face. Something shattered within the rancher's chest at that moment. With a voice that boomed across the plains, he commanded the men to depart. His hand seized the stock of his rifle, his posture immovable, and his eyes burned with an intensity that none dared confront. The intruders, recognizing his determination, withdrew hastily, leaving behind only the dust clouds from their horses' retreat. When quiet returned once more, the rancher faced the children, his hands shaking not from fear, but from a magnitude of choice that had already crystallized in his heart. He lowered himself before Samuel and Anna, his voice gentler than it had been in years. He assured them that he would never again allow them to confront this world in solitude. He declared that from this moment onward, they were his children, and no danger would reach them while under his protection. Tears streamed down Anna's face as she pressed against his coat, holding her doll between them. Samuel, though attempting to restrain them, allowed his own tears to flow freely, his small hands grasping the rancher's arms, as if fearing this pledge might dissolve into the wind. But the rancher spoke with complete sincerity, and for the first time in years, he permitted his wounded heart to love once again. The seasons transformed, and with them so did existence on the ranch. Samuel developed strength, mastering the ways of horses and cattle alongside the rancher. Anna's joy resonated through the air, her purity gradually returning as she frolicked in the meadows, her doll now repaired with meticulous stitches from the rancher's own hands. The men who had once questioned now observed in silence, some even grinning as they witnessed a transformation in their leader. The rancher was no longer a man of granite. He had become a father once more, and in safeguarding these children, he had discovered his salvation. If this tale has moved your heart, if it has reminded you of the power of sacrifice, the restorative force of love, and the way compassion can transform even the most hardened soul, please like this video, share it with someone dear to you, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so that more people can discover stories that kindle hope in times of darkness. Your participation is what sustains these stories. And before we conclude, I would like to ask you something meaningful. Please comment below and share what emotions this story evoked in you. Did Samuel's bravery or the rancher's transformation touch you in any way? Your thoughts may inspire another reader, because sometimes it requires just one act of sacrifice and one gesture of kindness to transform everything.